Advanced courses often involve cases with complex factual backgrounds. Understanding the reasoning behind one of these beasts is usually impossible without a thorough comprehension of the facts. Unfortunately, the simple technique described above will not help you unravel a multi-power transaction involving several financial, corporate, or commercial exchanges. It becomes necessary to roll out some heavy artillery, a pencil, an eraser, and some creativity. The only efficient way to represent an elaborate scheme such that it will be mentally accessible in the future, say at exam time, is to draw yourself a diagram that tells the whole story. It should be as simple and visually understandable as possible. So it is good practice to devise figure elements that always designate the same concept. Because each case is unique, of course, it will be necessary to come up with some new ideas here and there. But remember that these diagrams function merely as mnemonic devices. They don't have to be works of graphic artistry. To see how this might work, consider the following excerpt from Estate of Franklin v. Commissioner. Superscript 2, it reads 544 F dot 2D 1045 Open Ninth Circuit 1976. Close back to the text. This is one of the most, this is one of those mercilessly intricate tax shelter cases in which two parties, 24th Property Associates, referred to simply as associates, and the Romneys attempted to steer merrily through the tax law by means of a clever real estate scheme. As to the outcome, suffice it to say that the court took a rather humorless view of their antics. The immediate task for us is to merely figure out what the transaction was all about. But first, a few preliminaries. A non-recourse purchase means that the seller who has parted with his property on the promise of installment payments to be received from the buyer agrees to look only to the property itself for satisfaction of the debt, should the buyer fail to make the required payments. In other words, he has no recourse against the buyer personally. The best he can do is foreclose and retake the property, hoping its value is sufficient to cover the remainder of the debt. A leaseback refers to an agreement where the buyer, upon receiving title to property, immediately leases it back to the seller. The court reported the facts as follows. Under a document entitled Sales Agreement, the Romneys agreed to sell the Thunderbird Inn to associates for $1,224,000. The property would be paid for over a period of 10 years, with interest on any unpaid balance of 7.5% per annum. Prepaid interest in the amount of $75,000 was payable immediately. Monthly principal and interest installments of $9,045.36 would be paid for approximately the first 10 years, with associates required to make a balloon payment at the end of the 10 years of the difference between the remaining purchase price forecast as $975,000 and any mortgages then outstanding against the property.